me. Today, our Old Testament Hebrew scriptures comes from Psalm 46. Psalm 46. And I'm reading from the New International Version Bible. Psalm 46. God is our refuge and strength, an ever-present help in trouble. Therefore, we will not fear, though the earth give way and the mountains fall into the heart of the sea, though the waters roar and foam, and the mountains quake with their surging. There is a river whose streams make glad the city of God, the holy place where the Most High dwells. God is within her. She will not fall. God will help her at break of day. Nations are in uproar. Kingdoms fall. God lifts his voice. The earth melts. The Lord Almighty is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. Come and see what the Lord has done, the desolations he has brought on the earth. God makes war cease. To the ends of the earth, God breaks the bow and shatters the spear. God burns the shields with fires. God says, the Holy One says, be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth. The Lord Almighty is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. In our New Testament text comes from the Gospel according to John, chapter 16 and verse 33. I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart. I have overcome the world. The word of God for the people of God. Thanks be to God. May God add a blessing to the reading and hearing of the word. Our sermon title for today is Good Trouble, Following the Path of Jesus. Good trouble, following the path of Jesus. Last week, many of you followed the civil rights icon who was funeralized. He was buried. And as a child, he was known to have problems with whites only, colored onlys, on the water fountains, on the bathrooms. And he asked his mother and father, why is there a difference for white people and black people? And his mother and father said, John, stop asking so many questions. Don't get into trouble. Well, as John Lewis grew up, he decided to always get into good trouble on behalf of people's rights and civil liberties. Good trouble, he called it. Good trouble. What type of trouble do you usually get into? What type of trouble do you get into with yourself and with others? And what type of good trouble are you willing to get into? Some serious questions. So with our text, our gospel text of John, why did Jesus feel it was necessary to tell certain things to his disciples, his champions of the good news of the gospel? Jesus told the disciples they would have trouble. The kind of trouble that would be brought on by witnessing, teaching, living, and following the path of Jesus. But Jesus said, "Take heart, I have overcome the world." Some Bible translations say, "Be encouraged." Why may it have been necessary for Jesus to emphasize to the disciples that he had overcome the world? Maybe to indicate that they, as his disciples, would do the same. Jesus set the moral example for his disciples and for us today as his future disciples. I believe that's why it was necessary to emphasize. And the Greek word for overcome is nikeo. Nikeo. The New International Bible says, "But take heart, I have overcome. I have nikeo the world." Jesus was telling the disciples, when they follow his path, they would get into good trouble. They would be in sync with Jesus. We are in sync with Jesus when we continue to do his ministry. That's like when we come here on Sunday mornings and James Coopernick tries to get us in sync with singing, and he doesn't stop until we're in sync together. That's a relationship. So we have to become in sync with Jesus in order to do his ministry. Remember, Jesus was viewed as a rebel. He ate with people viewed as unscrupulous by the religious leaders of that time. At times, Jesus didn't make his disciples do Jewish ceremonial things like washing of hands in preparation for things, as other religious people did during his time. Jesus taught the disciples to get into good trouble, good trouble, like healing people when the laws told them not to do it on certain days, like feeding people and not send them away even when resources were limited, like being with people or seeing people as human beings when others don't want to be with them or see them as such. Now, trouble is defined as having difficulty or problems. But another definition of trouble is public unrest or public disorder. Jesus was known to display public disorder. Remember, he did turn over the tables in the temple. Jesus did cause public unrest of sorts when he spoke and interacted with the woman at the well. This was against the law. Patriarchy in antiquity had rules regarding men interacting with women in public. You see, there will always be trouble when we model and walk the path of Jesus. There will always be trouble when we model and walk the path of Jesus. We should remember that trouble at times must be beyond our personal issues of various types, our personal feelings as such. Last week, a dear friend of mine in our condo and I were talking. We were social distancing and all, but I mentioned to her that I knew certain people didn't like me because of certain stances that I take. And she said to me, "Who are you?" I looked at her and she repeated again, "Who are you? Who are you to hold this against folks? Let them be held accountable to God, whether they like you or not. And you're not living for people to like you." And remember, Jesus forgave everyone on the cross. Aren't you walking the path of Jesus, she asked. I became still and just looked at her and thought long and hard about her admonishment. And I said, like the saints used to say in New Orleans, Louisiana, when they would get up quarterly and give their determination, meaning what they were going to do on behalf of Jesus. I said, yes, my determination is to follow the path of Jesus, no matter the cost, unrest, dislike, or whatever. Letting go of my personal trouble and always willing to get into good trouble. Jesus' type of trouble. Understanding and believing that I would overcome because God is my refuge and my strength. God walks with me. God gives me peace to endure no matter what. That's why Psalm 46 can be a comfort to all. a comfort to all who believe. The text tells us just to be still and know without a doubt that God is God. Be still. Be still and know that I am God. It's difficult to be still because often we are so preoccupied with outside stimuli or eternal fear. We forget the good news that God is with us at all times. We just have to accept and believe that God is. When we remember this, then we know where our refuge and strength comes from during troubled times. So the bad news of the text is there will always be trouble of some type. You see, we live in a world that is filled with sin and with humanity's poor choices. From the pulpit to you who are hearing this message right now, that's the bad news. We choose what type of trouble to enter into. We are challenged to make hard choices at times. But the good news of the text is we will not go it alone, since Jesus is with us, providing, offering the ability to overcome, be victorious in the trouble because of his peace within us. The president emeritus of James Walker Hood Seminary, the seminary in which I went to, nicknamed me Trouble in my second year of studies. Initially, it aggravated me. But one day, it became a badge of honor for me. You see, during my seminary days, I would often speak up on behalf of the fellow students. I would voice what I believe would be good changes for the seminary. Even when no one stood with me, I would make an appointment with the president, and when the secretary, his assistant, would ask me, Sheila, what is this in reference to? I said, I have some things to discuss with the president. And she would say, well, can you name? No, I don't want to name right now, just because I didn't want the president to get a head start or have a upper hand on what I was going to say. They still let me in. And I would say what I thought. I would recommend what I thought would be good changes for that seminary. So at graduation ceremonies, my husband, first gentleman, asked the president, why did you nickname Sheila Trouble? His response, she is a rebel, like the ministry will often call her to become. A good rebel, a rebel like Jesus. You must be able to say when you are a rebel, when you are following in the path of Jesus, walking in the path of Jesus, whatever my lot, it is well with my soul, following the path of Jesus. The question is, are you willing to follow the path of Jesus, getting into good trouble, being willing to say, God, Whatever you have me to do, I'll do it if no one stands with me. I'll do it because you have said you will be with me. So when peace like a river attendeth my way. We're going to slow it down a little bit, Dr. Allen. It is well with my soul. When peace like a river attendeth my way, when sorrows like sea billows, they just roll and roll and roll. Whatever my lot, thou hast taught me to say, it is well, it is well with my soul. You see, it is well with my soul. It is well, it is well with my soul. And though Satan should buffet, though trials they will surely come, let this blessed assurance, let it control that Christ has regarded my helpless estate and has shed his own blood for my soul. Oh, it is well, oh, with my soul. Yes, it is well, it is well with my soul. Oh, it is well, oh, with my soul. You see, it is well, it is well with my soul. You see, it's well, and that's why we can come to this table today. Whether the sacraments is on it or not, we can come to this table because of Jesus. Jesus said, it is well with my soul. Oh, it is well, oh, with my soul. Yes, it is well, it is well. soul. It's always well with my soul because I know Jesus is with me.